You're listening to the IPATH Convo podcast, the official podcast for international performing arts and theatre, where you can listen and be inspired by conversations with people from the performing arts industry across the globe. The IPATH Convo podcast are sponsors of the IODC, International Online Dance Competition, brought to you by Choreography Online. The IODC is open for dance and choreography entries from May 5th. There is $12,000 worth of prizes to be won, including scholarships and partial scholarships to leading dance centres. So, if you have a pre-recorded dance routine, then you're ready to go. If not, then get filming. You don't want to miss this incredible opportunity. Visit www.iodc.online. Hey guys, welcome to the IPATH Convo podcast. Today we're joined by Hilary Sukhonos. Hilary is a professional dancer, having performed with numerous dance companies around the world, as well as for Jean Ann Ryan's productions for Oceania Cruises. Currently, Hilary is a dancer for the world-famous Lido de Paris, one of the most prestigious cabaret revues on the planet. Hi Hilary, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
Hi David, it's good to be here. I'm doing well.
Amazing. How's lockdown treating you in Paris?
You know, we had a break in the weather, so we were able to spend time outdoors. It's been really joyous, but otherwise we are enduring like everyone.
Oh, that's good. Hopefully we're coming out soon with the new vaccines and stuff. Fingers crossed. But yeah. So when was the last time you was dancing at the Lido? Was it like prior the whole coronavirus?
So the Lido has been closed for 1 year.
Okay. Yeah.
And prior to the pandemic, I was on a sabbatical. I took a contract dancing in England with Thursford Christmas Spectac in the Christmas season.
Amazing.
After that, I had planned to return to America and work with the Godfrey, and that all got canceled. So it's been a year. I took one of my first ballet classes last week. There's a class for professionals only here in Paris, which is allowed. And it's wonderful to be back in the studio. Dancing in the apartment and keeping in shape on Zoom has been a bit fatiguing. It's great to be. It will be a great resurgence once we're allowed to be back.
It will definitely. I'm so excited to go back to the theatre. I think I'm literally going to see every single show in London. So.
I think we all are. Tickets are going to be booked.
Okay, so for our listeners, Hilary dances for the Lido in Paris, one of the most famous cabarets in the world. What's it like dancing at one of the most famous and prestigious cabarets?
That's a great question. As an American, I was not familiar with the Lido as some other countries, the European countries. So I didn't know what I was getting into. I was hired for the original cast for Franco Dragon's debut performance in Europe. It was 2015. He brought in Benoit Swan Pouffer to reimagine and modernize French cabaret. It was a great undertaking. The show was a $22 million renovation of the theater.
Wow.
And there were several Americans hired, which isn't so usual. And I remember we all went to the Moulin Rouge being like, wow, we were expecting the Hollywood film, and we had no idea what the showgirl French cabaret life was. So we were in for a shock.
That's amazing.
As a new showgirl, I come from a mixed kind of fine art, contemporary dance, ballet background. I learned from the senior members of the company how to showgirl, walk, bevel, the elegance, the understanding of the culture of cabaret, and to understand that the Lido is a cultural icon of Paris. We sit on the Champs-Élysées, we're like a jewel in the crown. It's revered, it's fantastic. We perform for hundreds of thousands of live audiences a year, millions and tens of millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of TV audiences, because we are a part of major sports broadcasting, documentaries, award shows are filmed, Bollywood shows are filmed. It's incredible to be shoulder to shoulder with Carla Bruni, Catherine Deneuve, Omar Sy, Pamela Anderson, our stage door is right next to a premier movie theater. So we've had Brad Pitt get into his limo, Bradley Cooper. So there's Hollywood that's still alive. I myself have invited Johnny Depp, most notably. I met him at the Paris Opera. I invited him and his friends to see the show, which he did, and we brought him backstage.
That's incredible.
And, Eddie Izzard, the famous comedian and actor and activist from the UK, I've made friends with again after his show, invited him to the Lido. So as a Lido dancer in Paris, I have a social status I'm not used to. We're minor celebrities. We're invited into fashion openings and clubs and galas. And it's a mixed bag of how a showgirl is received when people understand the aesthetic of what we do and the cultural meaning and our ties to couture, fashion, art, dance, the legacy of Paris. It's opened doors like never before. So it's thrilling to be a dancer at the Lido. It's an international company. Gosh, I don't know, 25 or more nationalities on stage.
How many dancers are part of the cast?
So pre-pandemic, there was around 80 artists. So that includes singers, replacement singers, specialty acts. I believe there's 45 women in the cast. So we're not all on stage the same day because there's a rotation, 4 days off. It's a female-focused show, you can say. There are 12 to 14 show boys who are fantastic, by the way.
Wow.
But yes, there's a lot of leggy women out there. We call ourselves glamazons, right? Like giraffe size. And then we wear 4-inch heels on top of that. And I'm actually at 5'9", I'm one of the shortest in the company. I'm one of the 5 petite dancers.
How do you do they give you additional training to dance in such high heels or?
No, you're just expected to do it. Yeah. I've encountered heels like in character dance and in Broadway and musical theater styles. They have very good shoes made locally in Paris at Clairvoy, which has been making showgirl shoes for the cabarets, oh gosh, forever. They're an incredible quality shoe. They cost between $600 to $800 a pair. Wow. And so they have a lot of structure and strength because we're literally jumping and running, and it's a contemporary show with contemporary choreography. It was adapted to heels. You know, it's choreography for bare feet, essentially. So
that's amazing. So what was the audition process like to get into such a huge show?
So for the new show, they were very particular about the casting. They wanted the best in the world. I think over 600 to 800 female dancers auditioned. There was a lot of private auditions also held. The choreographer even went to New York, which Lido really hasn't done in decades, to source dancers. The choreographer wanted dancers versed in contemporary styles, in fine art, intelligent dancers who could improv, who know partnering, who can work with him in his style, as opposed to kind of a more traditional musical theater, jazz, Broadway background. So there was actually quite a mix of the former cast members, more traditional, and then contemporary dancers. So, and we all has to be the requirements, height requirement, and there's an aesthetic requirement. But I think height kind of encapsulates that, and then you're skilled. We have point in the show and partnering, and so they were very picky. Yeah. My friend Leah, she was one of the first at the first audition. They had almost 400 dancers. They kept 2, and she was one of them. Wow. It's incredible. I went to one of the last auditions. There was only 60 or 90 dancers there, and they kept 5 of us. So I was a bit more fortunate in the numbers game at that point. That's amazing. They have biannual auditions, and then they do hold private auditions occasionally because there's emergency fill, there's pregnancy, there's injury, loss of contract, sabbatical, etc. So there's multiple opportunities to audition throughout the year. In the pandemic, when we go back, or when we start up, there will be a demand to fill spots. We don't know when that demand will be plugged in. It depends on audiences. The theater depends on mass tourism, global tourism to fill our seats. So when that starts up in a robust way, the cast, I think, will be reignited and we'll have a need. Again, like 3 years down the road, I bet there's going to be great hiring opportunities, I forecast. But as 2020 taught us, we never know what's around the corner.
No, absolutely.
At this time, also, dancers are retiring or moving on to different things. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities, I think, coming up.
Absolutely. What was the rehearsal period like? The costumes are so spectacular and some of them are huge. Did you have specific training and support with dancers with huge headdresses, for example?
Thankfully, material science has come a long ways, and they're no longer made with like lightweight, flexible, I think it's like steel or wrought iron. Honestly, some of the older costumes from the 80s are very heavy, and you need a lot of neck, back, and core strength to even walk. Thankfully, the new show, it's plastics. The backpacks are incredibly light and maneuverable, and also they move with the body. Yeah. And in the modern show, they eschewed a lot of the large headpieces. We do have a very heavy, essentially we wear like swans on our head.
Wow.
And they're asymmetrical. So our movements are quite slow with that. But the modernization has brought a new way for dancers to move, and the costumes are lighter. When you're plugged into the show, you have about 2 weeks rehearsal period, and then you have a costume test, and all the costumes are tested on you, and you have a short period where you have to get used to it, and then boom, you're on the show with feathers flying, lights in your eyes, and there's stages on elevators, and the tables butt up right to the stage. You almost feel like you can fall off. In fact, when we opened the show, I think 1 or 2 dancers did actually like bloop, plop out.
No way.
Yes, a new show, everyone's getting used to it, but that hasn't happened in years.
I bet the guys quite enjoyed that were sitting on the front row.
Yeah, well, we do have some costumes spill champagne. If some audience actually place their glasses of champagne. Can you imagine on the stage?
No
The
way.
dancers get a little bit testy with that. We're tempted to like nudge it off, be like, "Excuse me, this is a dinner show, but we're not quite that casual here."
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. So yeah, you were saying that you had to have like almost a specific look for the Lido, and with all the costumes and everything. Talk us through how you like stay in shape and on form.
So there is no studio in the theater of the Lido.
Right.
Dancers come early and they do their warm up and what they need to do before the show. There's 2 shows, so you usually have like a warm down, re-warm up in between the shows. And after the show, you have a shower and you go home or you go out. We have gym membership and class cards that we can use for in the community, but there's no central base or way that the Lido dictates we keep our shape. It's up to us. Naturally, dancers are always building their fitness and yoga empires and teaching, so we keep in shape the usual way.
Oh, brilliant.
And supple hamstrings.
Yes.
All the kicks.
Fabulous. Where do you go from here in terms of, like, you're dancing in the ultimate show that every dancer dreams of? So where do you see yourself going from the Lido?
You're right. It's a really good contract. It's a lot of dancers, they've made it when they come here. Some want to travel or have contracts that will take them around the world, or they want to transfer into other genres, such as like a West End or a Broadway, or into movies or commercial work. And many dancers transfer into working behind the scenes, production. dancers here at the Lido, many of them have their own production shows, create the costumes, do private or corporate bookings, or work in fashion and produce the fashion shows. Me personally, I've been building my career transition runway now for almost 2 years.
Yes.
So I have a passion to be a writer, and I've created my own blog, which is going well. I just interviewed the Rockets of Color alumni based in New York. They're a fascinating, powerful group of women, and that it got almost 600 views in 24 hours. And I was recently republished with a different article in Australia's #1 dance media outlet, Dance Life Australia. So I'm doing that as well as working with choreography online. So, dancers, I'm a creative type. I have my fingers in many projects. Choreography online is going to be shaping the digital world of dance by allowing choreographers to license their work, added to a catalog, which can be sold worldwide. It's just the beginning. I'm very excited about that. And of course, I have a passion project called Cabaret Diversity, which is celebrating the diversity, the legacy of, and the next generation of diversity in cabaret. So we're having a podcast interview coming out on Turnout Radio with the panel, which should include Benoit Swan, the choreographer, LaMichael Leonard, who is the principal of the Lido show, and Charlotte Calix, who is another principal of the Lido show, who come from America, Brazil, and France, and reflect kind of our multicultural world and how that influences French cabaret. So where am I going to go? I think doors are going to open the more I put myself out there. I'm excited for this interview with you, David, on IPATH, and what your entity does for the world of dance and for our industry, which I think is really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That sounds absolutely amazing. Where can our listeners find your blog?
Sure, it's birdintheworld.com. And I have a little Instagram. It's the same name that you can find me on. And I link to my other projects through that site.
Amazing. And for the listeners, we'll add that link at the end of this video. But so talking about IPATH, we've been in discussions, haven't we, about the potential of a cabaret syllabus. So talk us through what your vision is for a potential cabaret syllabus, because I don't think they exist, and there's obviously lots of ethical things around it. What age would you start the students at and stuff? So what's your vision?
This is an interesting question, and I'm very glad you brought it up. I believe the impact and long-term implications of having a codified showgirl or cabaret syllabus would be a benefit to the status, the professionalism, and how the other dance genres and how we're seen from the outside.
Absolutely.
I think cabaret and showgirl is underground, and I believe that a syllabus that can be plugged in, as you said, in appropriate ways, because cabaret and showgirl, it has adult themes with the costume and the content. But again, so does ballet, and so does the West End, and so does it all.
Yeah.
So not to be afraid of that, but definitely it's something that you would want to teach in an appropriate way. Also, what is interesting, since there is no home base or codification of it, it's a little bit of the Wild West.
Yeah.
Currently what happens is when a showgirl or cabaret dancer retires, they'll hold workshops. Contractually, we're not allowed to invoke the name of our employer or former employer when we do any sort of outside work, because we're not representing the brand. Right today, I'm representing Hillary. But many of them do go on to say, like, I dance for the Moulin or I dance for Crazy Horse, and this is the style that I'm going to give on to the next generation, which is traditionally how dance is passed on, person to person, oral, in the studio, very, physical. Right now, Emma Castle, she's doing, Be a Showgirl for the Day, and she's a Crazy Horse dancer for, over 10 years.
Wow.
There's generations of showgirls who pass on the traditions, but unofficially and without backing and without a book per se and a logo and all the official structure that could that they have. So, but what would be the implications? Would Moulin Rouge, if they see on your resume, oh, they're certified French can by this school,
For
would
sure.
they more likely hire you than another dancer who's not? Because the Moulin Rouge, when you're hired by them, you go through an intensive can training.
Yep.
Their can is very intense. Would a syllabus for that prepare and make dancers more hireable? Also, is the market large enough to make a examination worth it? Are there enough jobs to say, oh, they have, maybe it's going to be a 2-year program, or maybe it's just a 6-month qualification.
Yeah.
Because the showgirl world is still built on jazz, it's still built on classical training. There are more commercial elements such as Paradis Latin, a show. They have a very commercial feel. They're doing like contemporary duets, and it's a kind of a departure again from the classical. You're a walking costume. You do a lot of walking and waterfalls and loops and circles and poses. So, and also, there's some shows that also require tap. So it would be. I spoke to this idea to a few dancers in my network.
Yeah.
I can see it as a supplemental syllabus to add on to your musical theater training. And also the same thing, the reality is being cabaret dancer is different than a showgirl, because showgirl says you have a certain physique and a certain look, which is dictated by your height. Hello, tall dancers, this is our opportunity. So again, if you have a school of 500 students, and of your graduating class, perhaps, I don't know, 7, 10 of them are above 5'7" or 5'6", which is a required like minimum height.
Yeah.
So this pool of, unless you want fans of cabaret, which is another subset. So I've always wanted to be a showgirl. I've always wanted to be a rockette. I've always wanted to be. There's a huge kingdom of fandom. Cabaret Worlds TV is a YouTube channel. They have tens of thousands, and I think 500,000 or even 1 million views on these shows. The fandom is huge. So to have a syllabus for dancers who are non-professional, but to teach and just to continue on the legacy, and a legacy of the Moulin, or a legacy of Friedrichstadt Palace, or a legacy of the Royal Palace. Like there's so many shows who could even, license or copyright kind of their own distinct way to walk, way to stand, because they are all different.
Yeah.
There's this method and that method, and it's influenced by this woman or this dancer or this director. I think it would just add to the history and overall elevate the genre to have something like this. But it will remain to be seen how the dancers themselves implement it.
Yeah.
I think it has potential.
I think so as well. And I'm really excited to speak further with you about this and see how we can develop it. But
especially in your work in Asia, David.
Oh my goodness.
Right? There are show palaces, and they're in Japan, and also in the Philippines, who envy and emulate Western French showgirl and cabaret.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it be fabulous to bring that genre formally to them?
Yeah.
I think that would be so exciting, and they're so eager for it, for that, again, that cultural exchange.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And cruise ships as well. So many dancers go on cruise ships, and that's a huge opportunity for dancers. And there's lots of cabaret and showgirl routines in their shows.
There are showgirl ships, and I'll tell you a story. Jean Ann Ryan.
Yep.
I don't know if she still does cruise ships. She launched careers of dozens of showgirls, and I am one of them.
Wow.
I can see. I mean, Jean Ann, if you're listening, they're a wonderful couple who I could see, because they were the one, and they're Heather Urquhart, who was their rehearsal director. They really trained me how to enter entertainment. They took a lot of dancers who were green and new and launched their careers. I can see entities like that grabbing onto this, because yes, they train the the cruise ship Showgirls, and everyone who went onwards to have their careers from there.
That's amazing. So you was a dancer on was it the Royal Caribbean ships?
I did Oceana, which is now owned by NCL, but at the time it was like a new rebranded new luxury cruise ship that had like a showgirl cast.
Wow.
You know, everyone was above like 5'8", I think. Fantastic cast. And they all went off to be in the West End, and I went off to be in Lido. And I mean, it was a fantastic launch. Another, we worked with industry professionals who worked with Fosse, who choreographed for Gloria Stefan and Jennifer Lopez. It was amazing. That was my first taste of entertainment and my calling to be the destiny of a showgirl, which I had resisted. Also, we need to talk about Vegas.
Yes, Vegas, of course.
Which Bally's is closed, but again, there's a living legacy of showgirls now. Yeah. And if they had a certified method, and to keep that going and to revive, because Lido planted the seeds in Vegas for the Stardust to exist, and then things developed from there. So also what's happening in Macau.
Yeah.
It's the new Vegas of Asia, and they have Showgirl Show, Crazy Paris Show, and just the hotels, I can't name them all, but who again hire that type in Australia as well, who has a big tradition. And Bridges, Australians come to Europe, go to Asia, by way of their visa from Great Britain, England. So I think the markets can be kind of connected, even if you see different syllabus. How would that happen? Would they need to get a hold of IPATH? If someone wanted to propose to you, we have an idea for a cabaret syllabus based on XYZ, would they develop that with you?
So yeah, they'd just contact IPATH, absolutely. Yeah, and the thing is, like all those countries you've mentioned, IPATH are already working in. We have schools in Australia, all throughout Asia, the States, and obviously here in Europe. So,
and what would that look like, say, from like initial meeting? Would it take like 6 months, a year to have like a proposal be validated, tested, and then you would distribute it to the schools or offer it in your catalog saying this is available? And how would you train the teachers? How does that all work?
So basically what would happen is someone would come with a proposal of kind of like a syllabus outline, a framework of what the students would have to train in. And that would be approved by our board of experts, like dance experts. And then from there, we'd work with the artists in developing the actual program of study, which would be all the steps. So what do you need? What steps do you need to...
What do you name them?
Yeah, exactly. Basically like what a ballet syllabus is like, a ballet program of study, but for cabaret and showgirls. And so would help develop all of those exercises and video them all and stuff. And then from there, we create the teacher training course. So we look at what the teachers need to teach and then develop a course to assist the teachers in delivering that program. And then bish bash bosh, we just get it out there to all of the schools that are currently following IPATH, and any school that isn't following IPATH, they can just contact us and via our website and inquire, and we can go from there and support them. So
that sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I'm ready to jump on that with all my projects and maybe my own departure. I see a lot of potential in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was like, it's similar to so earlier you mentioned that you're working alongside choreography online. And we've just worked with choreography online in developing a choreography syllabus. So that's slightly different, but in terms of the framework, the syllabus framework, it's similar. But obviously with choreography, there's no set work because the whole idea.
It's created.
Yeah, you need to create it yourself. Yeah, but yeah, so there's certainly lots of opportunity, and we need to discuss this further.
Right, we need to discuss it further and have a panel discussion next time with some showgirl influencers.
Well, actually, maybe, Hillary, maybe I need to come to the Lido when it next opens Get inspired, and then we can have a few glasses of wine afterwards and then develop it from there.
I know just a place to have some champagne and wine afterwards. We're going to invite some people. Paris, get ready. It's going to be, yeah, I
Now I'm
agree.
excited.
All right, David. Invitation is set. Invitation's open.
Amazing. I'm going to hold you to that.
Oh, I'll take you to all the cabarets. We can do a cabaret tour.
Oh, that would be amazing. Because I trained in a cabaret school. But I've never actually been to any of the I've never been to Paris properly. I've literally stopped at their airport and changed planes, but that's as close as I've got to going to Paris.
There's many great English dancers. Camilla, who does VSG Showgirls.
Yeah, I trained with Camilla. We trained
in
school, yeah.
And there's also down in the south, I believe Cabaret Rouge is another, don't quote me on that, but there's many people who've been influenced, again, the English, French connection in the showgirl and cabaret, and of course musical theater, but cabaret is very big here, is very strong. Also in Dubai.
Yes.
There's Dance It Out Dubai, founded by Sophie, who was a principal at the Lido, and who has a wonderful instinct for business, and she runs a great entertainment production company in Dubai. So I mean, the connections are there, and they're exciting. So
absolutely,
let's go to Dubai when we can travel.
Yeah, that's true. No, so it's really exciting. So thank you so much for talking with us, and yeah, for our listeners, we'll keep you updated on the progress of the Cabaret Syllabus. But yeah, exciting times ahead.
I love it. I love your innovation, and you keep moving forward, and that's inspirational, especially in our industry at the moment.
Yeah.
And we are resilient, we are creative, and we're working together. So thanks again, David.
Thank you so much.